Hi everyone, it's Nicole here today for Pretty Pink Posh, and I'm showcasing the brand new Peekaboo die, new for January 2015. And I've created a fun card with this little kitty from a Simon Says stamp set peeking out from the Peekaboo die. To start my card, I am using a couple of borders from the Pretty Pink Posh Stitched Borders 2 die collection, and I have a piece of paper here from a Doodlebug 6x6 paper pad, and I'm going to go ahead and die cut two images with one pass of my machine, or two dies. I'm going to create a stitched border with that straight stitched border die along the top, and then I've die cut the peekaboo die from this strip. Now before I switch and die cut any of my other papers for my card, I'm going to go ahead and take that border die and place it along the bottom edge of this paper strip. And I'm using a little post-it tape to hold these in place, especially with something like this straight border die. I don't want it to shift at all going through my die cutting machine. Even though I'm using the magnetic platform, every once in a while it will shift. Now, for the peekaboo die, you just want to snip it apart in the center there with a pair of sharp scissors. And then you can open it, you can leave it partially open. There's all kinds of things you can do. It can be more like a little pocket if you just open the bottom pieces. It'll be really fun to send it through the mail with the little flaps closed, and then the recipient can open them for the little peekaboo. I love how it looks like little critters or characters or things can kind of come popping through that peekaboo die. I'm stamping the cat from the Simon Says stamp Quite the Pair stamp set, and it's a darling little kitty, and I'm going to color him gray with little white tips on his ears, tail, and paws, and then of course his tummy I'm going to leave white as well. I'm using Copic gray markers, all in the Cool Gray collection. The darkest I have here is about C5, I believe. And then they go down from there. And I'm only using grays. That's the only thing that's going to be here except for a little R21 for the kitty's nose when I'm all finished. I'm even using C00 and C1 for the tummy and the white portions of my cat. So once I have the colors and the gray built up to where I want and blend it all out, I am going to take my marker and create some little dot detail. It's one of my very favorite things to do, especially when working with critters or clothing. I think it adds some really fun texture. I'm going to go with my lightest, my C2s, or my lighter grays, C2 and under for the tummy portion. And then for the darker areas, I'll use some C5 and maybe even a little C4 or C3. But I really think it adds a ton of texture to the cat. Now once I have the cat all colored in, I'm going to take the coordinating die from Simon Says stamp, place it right over my colored and stamped image, and die cut that out. I have trimmed a piece of contrasting paper to pop behind my peekaboo die cut strip here, plus some background paper. I wanted some contrast. I didn't want it to just be that XOXO background. Then I've used my powder tool on the solid area to the right of the peekaboo, and I am using the Simon Says stamp Sending and Wishing stamp set to stamp my greeting using some Versamark ink, and then I will use the Simon Says stamp Fine Detail White Embossing Powder to emboss that. I really love the way the white pops off of this pink background. One of the great things about using the peekaboo die with a double-sided paper like this, it would work great with cardstock as well, but what I love about the double-sided paper is the different pop of color you get when those flaps open. So look at your pattern papers and things and see what kind of papers you could use with this peekaboo die. I think it's really fun. I love that the outside here is bright pink, but when you open those flaps, it's a little pop of red. I embossed my image, and I'm going to set that aside for a minute while I die cut my background. This is the A2 sized stitched large rectangle background from Lawn Fawn. It is the exact same size as an A2 card. And I am going to use a little post-it tape to hold that in place while I die cut my paper. simply because I don't want my die to shift when it runs through the machine. When you're die cutting something with a text background, you are not going to want your die to get skewed and have your text maybe going at a diagonal, unless that's the look you were going for. I wanted to make sure mine didn't move at all, so I used that Post-it tape to hold it in place. Now, before I put my die cutting machine away, I am taking this kind of scalloped stitched borders 2 die from Pretty Pink Posh and running it through my machine using a couple of sheets of coordinating pattern paper from Doodlebug. I'm using 2 of their past Valentine's 6x6 paper pads. I don't even know if they're available anymore. They, like I said, they're old. I was kind of using things from my stash. They're 2 of my favorites, and in fact, I just ordered the one for 2015 a couple of days ago because I just love the Doodlebug Valentine's collections. So I'm going to layer those scallop borders below my border here, and I think that'll be a really fun touch to my card. I'm ready to start putting it all together, so I'll place some adhesive on the back of my Peekaboo die cut panel. And I ran out of my favorite adhesive. I can't believe that I did that, but so I'm having to just use something in my stash, which I don't really love, but I'm using it up, so that's all good. I'm going to adhere that to the contrasting paper there that's going to go behind my window, then add some adhesive to that cat and have him kind of popping out there. And I was going to put him straight up and down, but I think he's much cuter coming in from the corner, and then his tail can kind of pop over there to the right. I think that's really cute. And that leaves me a little room to add some embellishment next to him over on the left as well. I'm using a little Ranger Matte Medium on the eyes and then gluing the medium silly eyes from Pretty Pink Posh in place. I love that Pretty Pink Posh has added some silly eyes in the 4mm and 6mm size to the shop. I think they're a great addition to all your little critters. Once I have those glued, while that glue is drying, I'm going to go ahead and attach my lighter pink scallop die cut border to the darker one. And then I can adhere that to my background. I'm just trying to make sure that I get it exactly the way I want it to look. And then I have die cut some hearts from the solid piece of double-sided paper here that's red and pink that I used for the peekaboo border. That way I can have some red and pink little hearts. I'm using the Mini Hearts die collection from Simon Says Stamp. This is one of my favorites. It has some teeny tiny hearts in about 3 different shapes, and there's kind of, you know, a long skinny heart, a more whimsical one, and then maybe a little bit more what I would call a traditional heart. So I am just going to pop some of those onto my card. I even die cut a few from this little piece of white text paper for a little bit of added interest. I thought I needed a little bit more difference instead of just pink or red, so I went ahead and grabbed some of those white ones that I'm going to use scattered there above my cat and then below my stamped and embossed greeting. Once I have all of those die cut, I can go ahead and start putting everything together. I'm going to use some mini Zotz glue dots to glue these teeny tiny hearts in place. If you follow me at all, you probably know I love these Zotz glue dots for adhering things like sequins and little mini die cut pieces and all kinds of things. I think they're fantastic. There's no glue that's going to, you know, squish out from underneath your embellishment, and I just think they're fabulous. They're teeny tiny and they work great for so many things. I trimmed off that excess from those die cut borders, and then I've placed some foam adhesive on the back of my die cut border here. I needed to move one of those foam adhesive pieces up just a tiny bit. That way, that will make it so that my die cut border here doesn't look kind of funny and lumpy, since I only have those stitched borders below the card and not above the card. I like how foam adhesive kind of helps level and even everything out. I'm using some Wink of Stella clear glitter pin to my hearts. And then I'm tying a little white silk ribbon around the bottom of my peekaboo border. Tie that in a nice little knot, trim the ends, and then I will use a glue dot to secure the knot in place so that doesn't shift or move when it goes through the mail. Now once I have that all done, I am going to go ahead and grab my glossy accents and add some glossy accents to all of those die cut hearts that I just added the Wink of Stella glitter pin to. I love how glossy accents makes them look more like enamel heart stickers or whatever shape they might be. It's one of my favorite things to do is adding glossy accents to small die cut pieces like this. Once the glossy accents is all dry, I will adhere this panel to a card and my card is all finished. I hope you've enjoyed this video showcasing the brand new Peekaboo die from Pretty Pink Posh. The supplies I've used are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Thanks for watching. Please be sure to subscribe for weekly stamping and card making videos. We'll catch you next time.